Hello, I'm Roger Bisbee and this is Ask Skill Builder. This is where I try and help you solve the problems which are bugging you. So we've got a question here from Jim Lee. Jim is painting some doors. In fact, he's painting more often than he wants to. They're south-facing, they're French doors, and he said it doesn't matter what, he's been putting Dulux Weathershield system on there, and it says it lasts 10 years. It's a water-based system, and he said he's lucky to get a year out of it. Before it all flakes off again, he's got to do it again. So he's saying this is ridiculous. Is there anything else you can use? Is there something better out there? Now, it seems to be the way that paint manufacturers are all going down this. Ronseal have now got paint where they say 10-year guarantee. And when you start looking at it, the only way that it gives you a 10-year guarantee is if it starts to blister or to flake or anything else, that you immediately sand that little area off and you touch it up and you keep the whole thing intact. If you don't, if you let it start to flake and blister, then your 10-year warranty is null and void. So it isn't a question of just getting a paint and putting it onto any surface, because obviously the paint manufacturers don't know what you're putting it onto, whether the wood is rotten. The trouble with modern timber is that it's quick grown in many cases, and the cellular construction of it, if you like, it's not very dense. It's full of a lot of air, you know, like an aero bar. So it rots, it absorbs moisture. Even if it's pressure treated, which it is on modern frames, it's not great. So what we're fighting is not necessarily a failure of the paint, it's a failure of the timber to be worth painting in the first place. So good joinery. I'm just having some frames made at the moment, actually. They're costing me quite a lot of money each, and they're made of Accoya. Now Accoya is a modified wood which doesn't rot. It's like hardwood, but it's not hardwood, but it is fantastic for painting onto. And the reason I'm having that done is for exactly this reason. South facing, I've never been able to get any other paint to stick onto the old frames, and the old frames have had it, you know, they've been there 100 years. So I'm going to put in Accoya, and I'm going to use a Swedish paint system that goes on. Now, there's plenty around like Saddling and so on, and Seekins, and they will work. They do work if you get them onto a good timber and you look after them. My neighbour used some on his fascias, and I looked at it and I thought, oh, it'd be interesting to see how long that paint lasts, and it's probably been up there 15 years now, and it's still looking pretty good. So it's one of those things where you can just give it a quick rub over, give it another top coat, and you're away again. But it does depend upon the timber being good enough to do it, and I'm afraid modern timber, that's what you're up against all the time. So I'd love to get other people's comments. Professional decorators out there, if you can give us your information, tell us what you think is a good paint, because I for one would like to know. And here's a question from Greg, and Greg has got this funny mark that's appeared on the wall, which has got, you know, it's facing the outside. It's the inside of an outside wall, if you like. So he's wondering, is it water coming through? He said it's not long been plastered. We don't know what it's been plastered with, but it looks to me like it's salts coming out of it's efflorescence. It's actually salts which are in the ground. So it's a damp problem, basically. The damp is bringing the salts out in the wall and depositing them on the surface. So what you do is you brush those salts off, and you just make sure that you just keep brushing them away until the damp dries out. But if he hasn't got a damp proof course in there, then it's going to take a time to do that. So he needs to look at that. I mean, it could be that that's coming through the wall, or it could be that it's rising up. But as the pattern of it suggests, that it's just a bit of a localized problem. But again, one of these things we really need to know. We need to go back to basics there and work out what's happened, whether this is waterproof render that's been put on the wall or just plain plaster or whatever. But I'm afraid it's a pretty common thing that you get, that you know, people come in and plaster a wall up that's got rising damp problems in it. And there's some marvellous things around now. You can get these rods, dry zone rods, and all you do is you drill the wall all the way along like bullet holes. You push these rods in, and as the moisture reacts with the chemical in the rod, it leaches out and it starts sealing off all the capillary ways through. So you can have a very, very effective damp proof course within days, if you like, you know, of putting these rods in. That they've started to do their job, and it's kind of non-disruptive, but it won't take care of that existing bit of dampness in the wall. So you've just got to keep brushing that off, sand it down a bit, and let the thing dry out. You know, give it a few months and then try and repaint it. But constant problem, a lot of it about, as I say. We got a question here from Peter Need, and Peter is doing a bathroom up. He's a big old job he's got here. He's taking everything out, he's moving things around, which is always a way. He wants to run the pipes, so he's saying, how can I run these pipes? Should I run them in metal or plastic, or what should I do? Push fit fit-ins and teeing off and do you know what, if you watch our bathroom videos, we've got a whole series of different bathroom videos on there, Peter, so watch those. I'm a big fan now of having continuous single pipes going to all the different fitments. So in other words, start off with a central manifold and you go out with one pipe to the WC, to the loo, so filter system. You go out with another pipe to the basin, another pipe to the shower, another pipe to the bath. Now you might think, okay, that's a lot of pipe in the way and it's a lot of mess, but actually in doing it like that, you avoid having to have T's hidden behind the walls where you could get potential leaks. It means that every single connection is either at the fitment itself, in other words, just under the loo, or it's at the manifold, and you've just got one single pipe going all the way through and serving that. Now, if you've got good mains pressure, you can even do it with something like a 10mm pipe. You don't even need to use 15mm pipe. So if, for example, you're doing a loo, and you've got a good mains pressure going in there, you don't need that water to be coming in there at 1,000,000 litres an hour. A 10mm pipe, I've done this many times, on mains pressure is quite adequate to do the job. A lot of the time you find that 10mm pipe just produces exactly the right flow. So when you're doing a shower, obviously you want as big a pipe as you can get, maybe a 15mm pipe in there if it's on mains pressure. And the bath, you obviously want a big pipe on, you know, something like 22mm pipe or something on that. Running them out separately, all the hot and cold supplies separately, means that you can just bury them behind the wall. He's going to use dot and dab board over the top. I hope he's not going to use plasterboard as it's a bathroom, but if he's going to dot and dab it, he can just chase those pipes in the wall very slightly, dot and dab over the top of them, and so provided he doesn't go putting nails or screws into them in the future, you've got a continuous pipe that's going from start to finish with no leaks. So that would be my way, but it's a lot he's asking here about waste pipes and everything else. It's really a little bit too much to go into on Ask Skill Builder, but what I would say to him is we produce lots and lots of bathroom videos now, so if he watches those, sit down and watch those, and if you've still got questions after that, we'll try and answer them. But he's really starting from scratch here, so he's got a lot of different things to cover. Anyway, that's my gist. Use the plastic pipe, shove it in, because it's so cheap now. That's the point. You can go and get a roll from Toolstation or Screwfix of 15mm PEX pipe for around about 15 quid, which is amazing value really. So it's not an expensive thing to put in, so if you end up wasting a bit, it doesn't really matter. So here's a question from James Swinyard, and James has got Woodworm. He sent a couple of pictures in here. He's asking what he should do, whether he needs to rip it all out and what he should use. He's not keen on chipboard, but he wonders if that'll do the job. Now, I've got quite a lot of Woodworm in this house, and when we bought the house, the mortgage company said, you've got to get it all sprayed, you've got to get a certificate from the Woodworm company. Now, they brought a couple of drums of fluid in here and sprayed it around, but I know for a fact that they couldn't spray it everywhere. They lifted the odd board and tried to spray it underneath, but it's a very hit and miss affair because there's obviously a lot of timber they can't reach with that fluid. The question is the Woodworm still here, or have they done the job? Really, you're buying that piece of paper, so there's nothing that you can't do yourself here with some Woodworm fluid. But the thing is with Woodworm, in centrally heated buildings, they don't actually hang around very long because they need a bit of moisture in that wood, and once everything's dried out, there's really not an awful lot for them to munch on, if you like, so they tend to fly away. Now, you can spray. If you find that you've got dust underneath the holes, then that's a sign that they're still active, so you probably should spray. But the other thing that you can do is you can get a pheromone trap, which around April time, May, when the Woodworm is flying out looking to mate, that's when these little things, which are just about the size of matchboxes, and you put them under the floorboards and in various other places in the loft and so on, and you will find that the woodworm are attracted to those and that they do go in and get stuck, you know, kind of like a honey trap if you like. That's one way of solving it. If it's not that bad, then I would just do a bit of localized treatment on it and hope for the best. In this case, I think James could probably put some chipboard in there. The woodworm don't like chipboard, so you'll be safe there. Treat the joists and I think you'll be okay. So here's a question from Gary Atkinson. He said that he wants to replicate what we've done in one of our bathroom videos, where we've put a shelf over the top where the WC frame goes, and he wants to have access to the plumbing behind it, but he said he can't see that shelf anywhere at all in the Abacus website. Well, it is supplied by Abacus. All the things that we used in that bathroom video should be available from Abacus, and to be fair, their website isn't the easiest to navigate your way around. You've got to kind of know a little bit about plumbing in order to do it, so it could be that you're just not looking in the right section, but we'll have a look at that, and if there's any improvement to be made on that Abacus website, we will forward the suggestions. So thanks very much, we'll get back to you.